So it was about 10 years ago now. I'm casting my mind back here. And it wasn't a particularly good time in my life. I was in a relationship that was very rocky, to say the least. I was very insecure at that time as a guy, and as was she. And we split up and got back together 7, 8, 9 times. I even lost count. And when two insecure people are in a relationship, it breeds problems. Anxiety, frustration, aggression, all the rest. And we weren't really good for each other when I see it now. However, the straw that broke the camel's back, if you will, the one night that ended it all was on a New Year. So, like I say, I cast my mind back probably 10 years now. And we went out to a local pub, which was a pub near me. And she had a lot to drink. And I had a little bit to drink. I was quite tipsy. But I didn't have as much as people imagined. And unfortunately she did, to the point where she was legless. She was making a scene in the pub. It was quite embarrassing, to be honest. So anyway, I had to take her outside. We started arguing, getting in each other's face, that kind of thing. Obviously, when you're fueled with alcohol, everything's a little bit more intense and a little bit more aggressive than it should be, shall we say. And so anyway, we couldn't get a taxi this New Year because it was New Year's Eve, all fully booked. So we had to walk home to my house at the time, which was about a 1.5 mile walk. And along this walk, she became very, very physically violent and tried to attack me, and started to punch us, kick us in the balls, go for my hair, scratches, drag us. But obviously I'm a big, strong guy, she couldn't really physically hurt us. Obviously I was able to push her away and tell her to get off us and all the rest. But she relentlessly kept trying to attack me on the way home. And so obviously I was getting more agitated, so I'd push her away, and I'd push her away hard, and she'd fall over, and then I'd drag her back up, and she'd rip her coat, and she had high heels and a skirt on, and then as she'd jump for us again, and I'd push her back, she'd fall down, and she'd graze her knee, and then she'd cut her elbow, and it was just a relentless assault all the way home. Now, although she wasn't able to really physically harm us, emotionally that was quite hard to deal with. And so we got home, and I remember she was in a right state from when we'd been walking home, and she was cuts and bruises, and her dress was ripped, and her coat was ripped, and she had bruises on her arms and cuts and stuff because of where she'd fell over. And she was getting really angry, and I was telling her what happened, and I said, right, this is it, I'm going to bed, I'm sleeping this off. Went up to bed, and we started arguing in bed again. And I remember that she grabbed my face, and as we were arguing, she said, I should go downstairs, get a knife, and fucking stab you. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I just lost it at this point. I grabbed a hold of her, and I threw her off the bed. She hit the radiator, and I slapped her across the face as hard as I could. I've never, ever done that in my life. And I put my head in my hands, and I said, this has to stop. And the whole room was silent. Those moments in life where time just stops. And I was like, this is really getting serious now. This is becoming violent. This is not where I want to be. And so anyway, from that moment, we crashed. We got up the next day, and she was really, really badly hungover, and I was explaining to her, look, this happened. It's unacceptable, and she wouldn't believe it. And so anyway, I dropped her off home, and we split up at that point. And then the following evening, I got a phone call from the parents. And her parents said, right, Luke, well, I've got no idea why our daughter came home in this state. Obviously, jacket's ripped, clothes are ripped. She's got bruises on her legs and her arms. It looks like you've assaulted her. And that's not what happened. Although it did look like that. And obviously, this is quite hard to deal with when several people are saying things about you which are not true. Perhaps you've been in that situation yourself when stories start going round about you that aren't true. Luke beat his partner up, Luke's a woman beater, this, that and the other, and that's difficult to deal with. And at the time I thought I was in love with her. I thought she was the one, etc. As your feelings and your emotions are within relationships, and it was deeply hurtful. And I wasn't the perfect boyfriend by any stretch. But I went through the stages of anger and guilt and regret of what I could have done to make it better, or the frustration that somebody could do that, and what people thought about me. And I was trying relentlessly for months to prove myself right, because on the phone I said, we've taken pictures, We've taken pictures of these bruises. It's clear you've assaulted her. We're going to go to the police. The threats to go to the police was there. And it was terrifying for me because I didn't want to have to deal with that. Because it was, number one, it wasn't what had happened. But on top of that, it was just the anxiety of what people thought about you. Even though I knew that wasn't true and I'm not that kind of person, I felt like a victim. And I was playing a victim for a long time. And I felt powerless and I felt depressed. And I felt really emotional and sad and all these different kinds of emotions, angry at the same time. And I just didn't know how to deal with it. And as months went on and I tried to prove myself right, trying to tell my mum to ring them parents, tell them I'm not like this, I would never do this. You know, going up to the pub to try and find CCTV of how out of it she was that didn't have any, you know, trying to relentlessly say I didn't do it, it wasn't me, you know. It's just exhausting if you've ever tried to prove yourself right. And so I remember the lowest point was after this relationship, a couple of months maybe, after it ended, and I was in a dark place, man. I was in a hole. I was deep in a pit. And I didn't know how to deal with it, so I drove to about 20 miles away from me. I got out and went for a walk, as I usually did, and I walked in this indoor shopping centre. And there was a pharmacy in this shopping centre, and I walked in and I looked at all these pills. I didn't know what they were, but I just looked at these pills and I thought for that split few second window, right, what can I buy now to take all this away and end it? And that was that split second where I scared the shit out of me. It was terrifying. And I looked, obviously they wouldn't have sold us them anyway, but that thought when it gets in your head where it's like, I want to die now. When you hit that rock bottom bit, like the only way to go from there is up. And I thought to myself, I need to start rebuilding. I need to start focusing on me, like getting my mental health better. Understanding that it's not really important to prove myself right. And so then I started to rebuild. I started to look after my health a bit more. I started to read different books. I started to hang around with different people. I stopped taking the cocaine as much. I stopped womanizing as much. I stopped drinking as much. You know, I started to look after my body and my health and read different books. And I took responsibility, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And when I noticed over time how that changed me, how understanding that I am solely responsible for my own happiness, just like you are. You are solely responsible for your own health and your own happiness. And when you take charge of that, when you take control of that, it's an amazing feeling because something clicks in your head to say, I am worth it. I do deserve happiness. I deserve to elevate myself to a different place and not have to live in this deep, dark pit anymore. And I learned a lot of lessons from that time because here's the thing, right? I don't stand here as a saint. I'm not here to say I was the perfect boyfriend because I wasn't, because several months prior to that event, that new year, I was unfaithful in the relationship and she found out about it. And that is me holding my hands up to mistakes, and I've made many in my life. I'm not perfect. However, I do understand lessons and everything in life happens for us, not to us. And this is what I noticed about this experience. Even though it was the darkest period of my life, it had happened for me. So what did I learn from it? Well, several things, but the main lesson of the whole thing was that it is so much more important to be at peace with who you are and where you're going and where you've been than it is to prove yourself right. And I noticed how much energy I'd expended physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally to try and prove my point of this is not what I did, this is what happened, it wasn't me, blah, blah, blah. Playing the victim when I should have just took responsibility for my own actions. I should have said, look, I want to move forward from this. I no longer want to feel like a victim and I want to feel like a victor. I want to move forward from this challenging, tough, depressing, upsetting, frustrating, angry time in my life and think, why did it happen? Because it happened for me. It learned me the lesson as well, not just to be at peace with who I was, but also to raise my standards and not accept any bullshit like that anymore. Maybe you have to raise your standards too. Maybe you have to understand that it's time to step up you. That it's time to tolerate no more bullshit. That it's time to upgrade your happiness, upgrade your health, upgrade your mindset, and live happier within you. What does it have to take for you to learn that lesson? I mean, You know, the thing is, sometimes we do have to go through the hard times to learn the lessons, but for the majority of us, we don't need any more hard times. We don't need to learn new lessons. We just need to apply and execute what we've already learned. And then we'll be able to break free from the chains that mentally hold us into the ground, that keep us stuck and keep us tired and frustrated. When we understand that it's our responsibility to upgrade our own personal happiness and to gain our own self, then we are able to take power and take charge. And I hope this story has brought someone out there some kind of relief and just feeling that, look, you're not alone. There is a possibility, there is an opportunity always. And everything in life happens for you, not to you. Please remember that.